Hello, welcome. This is going to be part 2 of my Introduction to CSS for Beginners series. So I'll start off by saying this assumes you have a basic understanding of HTML, HTML elements, and HTML element attributes. Now, if you don't, I've actually got a series, HTML for Beginners. I'll link that in the video somewhere or down in the description below. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to import our CSS into an HTML file. So here, this is the HTML file that we made through the Introduction into HTML series. And I've got the folder here, HTML example. And in this folder, we've got the intro.html and the intro.css file. All right, so in the HTML, we're going to add what's called a link HTML element in the head. So link HTML elements define a relationship between the current document and some external resource. So in this case, we're going to be creating a relationship between this document and our CSS document. All right. In the href, we define where our external resource is coming from. So in this case, it is in the same root folder. So we use relative pathing. So dot slash refers to the current working directory, and then we're going to add intro.css. All right, and save. Next, we'll open this in the default, the HTML in the default browser. So as you can see, the text is already red, and that is because our CSS has set the P HTML element to red font color. All right, moving on. So nested elements inherit parent styling. Now I'm going to show you an example here. So we're going to move this font color red from this P HTML element, which is here. We're going to move it up to the body HTML element. So let's replace that with body and then save. Go back to our web browser. So you can see here the P is red. If we refresh, the entire body fonts have turned red. And that is because of inheritance. So by setting the font color to red in the body, all the children elements of the body inherit that red font color. Okay? All right, moving on. So children elements inherit the styling. However, you can override them by defining it in the CSS file. As an example, let's create another P CSS rule set. We'll define a color property and a value of blue. All right, and save. So what do we expect to happen? We know that the entire body is red font. Now we've got the P tag here. If we go back and refresh, you can see that the CSS rule set that we defined for the P element has actually overridden the red font color that it inherited from the body tag. Okay. So moving on, CSS read from top to bottom. So declarations below override those above the style sheet. What does this mean? So let's say we create another P here, and we change the color to green. So what do we expect to happen? If CSS is read from top to bottom, which rule set will take preference? So if we head back into our web page and refresh, you can see that the P HTML element has turned the font color to green. And that's because this last declaration here takes preference over this one made here just above it, since CSS is read from top to bottom.